Y'all, between the Tinder swindler and now inventing Anna on Netflix, they might as well rebrand and call themselves the Swindler Streaming Service. Wow, it's actually not that bad. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today we're talking about a series that I'm a little late on, I'll admit, but I caught up with it this weekend, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about. It's Inventing Anna, a miniseries on Netflix that is 9 episodes long and created by Shonda Rhimes, and yes, it's inspired by a true story. If you don't know Shonda Rhimes, Bridgerton, Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, she's been involved with a lot. This series stars Julie Garner, Anna Chlumsky, and Arian Moayed, and it is, of course, about Anna Delvey, or Anna Sorokin, because she goes by a bunch of different identities. She's conned some of New York's elite capitalists, lawyers, realtors, and even her high society friends to try and make a living in America. But at what cost? Now, the series doesn't take us all the way back to Anna's childhood. If anything, the series isn't even told through the eyes of Anna Delvey. It's told through the eyes of the journalist Vivian Kent. Now, before we get into the positives and the negatives here, I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as I can, guys, but maybe something slips, so be careful if you haven't actually seen the series yet. But I'm going to give you guys my opinion and whether or not this is definitely worth a watch. But before we do, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about TV and movies just like this. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, and hit the thumbs up button if you did like Inventing Anna, and go ahead and get loud down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of all 9 of these episodes, which character was your favorite, and do you believe Anna was guilty or not? Alrighty, you guys, so let's get right into my positives. There are some really good performances here, and I do have some favorites. And the person at the top of my list is not because I watched Succession and love Succession, but it is Arian Moayed as Todd. He is Anna's defense attorney. Now, this guy, if you don't know who Arian Moayed is, I hope you do after you watch Inventing Anna. He's an excellent actor. The way that he just commanded my attention on screen was incredible, and I love the fact that they did give us him and his wife's dynamic. His wife's name is Mags, played by Caitlin Fitzgerald, and they have a lot of chemistry on screen. And not only that, when they give him serious material to work with, where you really get to understand the motivation behind his character and why he's really defending Anna tooth and nail, it is palpable. It is unreal television in that moment, and that was the shouting match between Anna and Todd, and I thought it was great. That was the cherry on top for me. So honestly, Arian Moayed did deliver the best performance in this miniseries. But then you have Anna Chlumsky as Vivian Kent, Manhattan Magazine's reporter, who gave Anna Delvey her fame. If not for her article and actually traveling to Berlin and back to get some more background info, I don't think that Anna Delvey would be as big as she was, and it might have even influenced the case itself, but I'll let you guys see that if you haven't seen it already. But Anna Chlumsky did deliver a solid performance. She does great balancing a wide range of emotions here, and actually almost convincing me to side with Anna Delvey. Oh, and on top of all that, her character's balancing being pregnant, so her and her husband Jack, played by Anders Holm here, it's just a cool dynamic with them, and I really like their chemistry. So she's trying to make sure that she can be the greatest reporter she can be, and that she can also be the greatest mother and wife. Also, shout out to Vivian's co-workers Maud, Lou, and Barry. Oh my goodness, I loved all 3 of them. Their banter, the back and forth, the way they're helping Vivian write this article, it is just incredible. And also the way that they stick up for Vivian when Paul, Vivian's editor, and I believe probably editor, and who assigns her the stories, basically there's a backstory there, and I'm just gonna be honest, I'm siding with Vivian. Paul is trash, sorry, and I think all of her coworkers know that too. But honestly, Anna Devere Smith, Jeff Perry, and Terry Kinney were the right mix of petty and slick commentary that we needed. Alrighty, so now we gotta move on to talking about Anna herself. Julie Garner plays the titular role of Anna Delvey, or Anna Sorokin, and Julie Garner, I know of her from Ozark. I didn't really like Ozark too much, so I didn't dive into it as much, but she was definitely the standout in that show, and from what I can see in Inventing Anna, it's like she just doesn't miss. There's this accent that she basically puts on for the entirety of the series that's part Russian, German, and New York socialite, but it works for her character. She really does chew up every single scene that she's in, and there are times where I get really frustrated. Now, all the writing commentary aside, we'll get to my critique there soon, but the way that she's able to just frustrate me, the viewer, and then also make me feel empathetic, and then also frustrate me all over again, it's incredible. And then one more notable performance here is Alexis Floyd as Neff, Anna's ride-or-die best friend. Even if the writing was a bit forced for her character, I love the solo episode with Neff, and I actually love how slick she is, the way that she's snappy with her responses and in the middle of conversations is awesome. I thought Alexis Floyd really did give a good performance. There was really nothing wrong with her there. I do blame the script in some instances, but then on the other hand, there were a lot of moments that made me say, hey, yo, seriously, guys. I was like clapping after some of her comebacks. It was just awesome. But outside of the acting, guys, I have to say, when the tension is palpable in this miniseries and the writing is tight, this show is incredibly addictive. We get the best of Inventing Anna in episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now that doesn't sound like a lot in the grand scheme of things, especially when each episode is a little over an hour long, but I will tell you that those episodes showcase exactly how strong not only this cast could be, but everything behind the lens could be too. While I didn't always love the direction and writing here, I thought that in those episodes, we got the best representation of just how binge-worthy this show is. So yes, it does hook you in the beginning. Now the second half of this show, well, we'll talk about that soon. And when it comes to the soundtrack, you guys, there are some amazing song choices here, I'm not gonna lie. Meg Thee Stallion kicks us off with a song, I believe it's called Rich, and oh my gosh, it was so fitting. A lot of the needle drops here really worked. Sometimes they were just a little whatever, they were kind of like background music, but when they worked, they worked. And one last positive before we move on, you guys, if you are familiar with the news of the past decade or so, there are some Easter eggs here for you. I'll give you one name. Billy McFarland. Oh boy. Alrighty, y'all, so now let's move on to what didn't work too much with Inventing Anna, and I will tell you there are a lot of issues with this miniseries that unfortunately just get a little bit worse as the show goes on. Now, I'm not here to smear Inventing Anna, there's a lot of good like we just talked about, but we gotta start with the pacing of this series. I just feel like maybe it feels too long, and that's never a good thing. There's a pattern with each of these episodes, honestly. It has a hot start, an okay middle, and by the end, it's dragging its feet across the finish line. We get moments that really just overstay their welcome here one too many times, especially towards the end where we get this fashion montage with Anna Delvey, and it just doesn't work. A lot of elements of this show were supposed to come together in harmony like we saw in episode 2, for example, but outside of that, I just felt like, especially towards the end of episodes, things just get a little too messy, and not in a good way. There are just so many scenes that kill any tension that these episodes try to build in the beginning, and somehow even with Julie Garner's solid performance, the show eventually made me just not care for her character, which is actually pretty unfortunate, especially because this show really should have been told through her eyes. I think they missed the mark there. If we could go back and change a creative decision, I think it really would be to tell the story through Anna Delvey's eyes, not the reporters. Maybe you have a solo episode for Vivian Kent, but outside of that, I just think that it was too much fodder and not enough substance. And when it comes to the writing itself, I know we said we would talk about it, guys, but I have to tell you that unfortunately, it's a little too on the nose and unnatural. I think back to Bridgerton season 1, I loved that dialogue. It was so snappy, it felt good from beginning to end, but here in Inventing Anna, we only get that in certain spots and with certain characters. I just think the conversations aren't always great, and the dialogue here is not convincing, especially between Rachel and Casey, played by Katie Lowes and Laverne Cox. Not to say that they give bad performances, you guys, but the way they write their dialogue is just so meh. I found myself really not understanding why the writers were going in certain directions as well with characters and their decisions, and the story, I should say, the miniseries, makes it a point to say this is a true story except for the stuff that's made up. So whatever they made up, it didn't really feel as compelling. And in terms of episode structure, eventually the show gives us character-specific episodes like we mentioned earlier, but they hardly feel like they scratch the surface. The exception for me is with Chase, Anna's ex-boyfriend. He's this tech startup entrepreneur, and there are a lot of cool moments, especially with Nora. Nora here is a character that I really loved, and I'm kind of sad that they pulled away from when they probably shouldn't, but honestly, it was convincing in those moments. But outside of that, these character-specific episodes never felt like they really left much of an impact with the character they're highlighting. Everyone else just felt like they got the short end of the stick, and it doesn't make me feel anything more for this core group of characters by the end of the series. And speaking of the end of the series, you guys, the finale here was awful to me. The courtroom drama didn't even exist during the trial, and that's at least what we should have gotten. Instead, we get some unnecessary scenes and these overly long montages, and remember that blend of humor and drama that worked in the beginning? It's not present here. I just really left this series feeling disappointed. I mean, yes, they did the cool, like, real-life comparisons at the end, but even then, I was just not intrigued, and maybe that's because I was just simply exhausted. By the end of this miniseries, 9 episodes in, each of these episodes feel 2 hours long, and that's a problem problem, again, with the pacing, writing, and I do think with the direction. Do we get some jaw-dropping scenes here? Sure. And are there some moments that are going to be fun to talk about with friends? Absolutely. But I just feel like as the series gets into its third act, we get less and less of that. And we should have gotten more of that. I mean, geez, I wasn't even familiar with the Anna Sorokin story coming into this, and I left not really feeling too compelled to go and research who Anna Sorokin really is. So overall, you guys, Inventing Anna is not terrible. Heck, it's not even a bad 9-episode adventure, but I will tell you that this is a series that could have done so much more with the talent that it assembled. Shonda, Rhimes, of course you have this incredible cast and a story that should be really compelling. It should be A+ material, but it's just the way everything was assembled and brought together that didn't really gel for me. And I think that by the end, I just really wanted to love my time with this, but unfortunately, I left feeling incredibly underwhelmed. I just thought that maybe there was a little bit more they could have picked from, and they could have shortened this and condensed this miniseries, and I think it would have been a little bit snappier, a little bit quicker around, I don't know, just around the corners of some of these stories that weren't as interesting. And whenever we do get like the height of this drama, especially when they go to Morocco, I thought that we left that moment way too quickly as well. So there's just a lot here that they introduce, but they never really go all the way with, and that's disappointing. So if I had to even rate Inventing Anna, I'll probably lean to a 3 out of 5. Listen, y'all, I still had some moments where I was laughing out loud, and I really was just flabbergasted by what they were even explaining, and the fact that some of this is real is incredible too, and not in a good way. So Inventing Anna, I think that if you have a weekend to spend, maybe it's a rainy weekend and you just can't leave the house, throw on Inventing Anna, have a conversation about it with your friends, and I think that will definitely help. But for me, the experience, it could have just been so much better. So there you have it, guys. That's my real review of Inventing Anna, which is now streaming on Netflix. But when you see it, I need to know down below in the comments what you thought. Let's go ahead and have spoiler discussions in there. I just, of course, tag it just in case anyone hasn't seen the show yet. But man, I can't wait to talk about the show with each and every one of you. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews, recaps, and reactions just like this, guys. Listen, it's gonna be a crazy week. Now, I'm seeing the Batman this week. Can't review until next week, but I do have a Batman giveaway coming out, so you're gonna want to pay attention to my social media for that as well. Guys, thanks again for stopping by the channel, spending time with me, and talking about another Swindler. Seriously, Netflix, what's going on? Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.